Let's have some questions then.
So we had a $5 donation from Shifty Powers.
Thank you, Shifty Powers, for the $5 donation. I need to read these questions, don't I? Because we've not got you on mic either yet. That was something we was in the feedback. Okay, what's the question?
So why doesn't Gaethje use body kicks, knees, rolling thunders anymore? He's not versatile. I know I needed to change, said post Alvarez Poirier losses.
Okay, so why doesn't he use body kicks and rolling thunder and knees? So why has Chandler started to limit his game a little bit? It's a difficult question to answer, to be honest, because I kind of don't know. Usually what happens when people start losing parts of their game, it's because of either an inability to actually physically do it. He could have an injury, he could have an ankle or a knee injury, especially after the Gaethje fight. You know, there might be. It was Gaethje, yeah. Oh, why does Gaethje not do that stuff anymore? Oh, okay, right. I thought we were talking about Chandler. So, I mean, Gaethje not throwing body kicks against Oliveira was smart because he would have gotten them wrapped up. I think, to be honest, it's such an expenditure of energy, and now Gaethje has felt the reality of being tired. That's where there's going to be some hesitation there. Like being gassed in a fight is awful, and you feel very vulnerable. And Gaethje had made it almost all the way through his career, and into the UFC. Well, he made it all the way through his career and into the UFC without getting punished without getting punished for getting tired in a fight. But then against Alvarez and against Poirier, he did get tired and he did get hurt. And I think that after that, he may have started to pull back some of the more chaotic or the higher energy parts of his game, so he wasn't expending that unnecessary energy. I mean, the energy that it would take to throw one body kick, you could probably get 3 decent punches off. And I know that like energy expenditure doesn't work that way necessarily, but there is. It's why it makes no sense when someone's tired. Why do you throw a spinning kick? Like Chris Weidman, Rockhold. You know, he won the first couple of rounds. He came out, threw a spinning kick, and lost the fight and the belt. You know, people do silly things when they get tired, and it's a really simple lesson that people should learn early in their career. In order to throw a spinning kick, especially an effective one, say it's going to take 8 units of energy. If you're tired, take those 8 units of energy and have 8 jabs that might get you out of trouble and give you some space to get your lungs back. Like, for whatever reason, people fall into the idea that they're going to land some Jet Li shit as soon as they're the most tired they've ever been in their life. And it just doesn't happen. I mean, it's so rare that something like that lands, even when someone's fresh and has set it up. I think Gaethje, especially after those losses, became less chaotic and more focused on what is most damaging, which you know is his hands and his low kicks. You know, he doesn't need to step outside of that because, you know, say if he did like rolling thunder or threw a body kick or whatever at Charles Oliveira, he's opening doors for him that he didn't need to do. Especially, you know, if he sticks to his basics, good takedown defense, good boxing, and good low kicks. I just think it's like a smart shedding of a piece in his game. I'm not saying we won't see it again in the future, but I think it would have to be against a lesser opponent.
So this is from Bob.
Oh, hang on a minute. Someone knocking at the door. Do you want to go and grab that? I've got a question here, Jamie. You go and let him in. What have I got here? Oh, Jamie's squeezing past. The key's hanging on the door, Jamie. Do you still feel Islam has a chance? Is he the only one not scared to go to the ground with Charles? And how do you see that playing out? It feels like it's the only fight that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. I do kind of feel like it's the only fight that makes sense, especially if you look down the division and you kind of see that the rest of the guys need a bit of time before they get up there and they're kind of worthy of a shot, which is why we're having a conversation about maybe Chandler coming back around for another one. For me, Makhachev is the closest to a title shot out of everybody in the division because of the way that he's winning fights, his absolute dominance, the fact that he might have a counterpart to the game of Charles Oliveira. But you know, we'll see. I mean, I'm constantly impressed with Charles Oliveira. Go for it, Jamie. Amazon. Okay. What else we got, Jamie? What other questions we got?
Right, so from Bob.
Bob?
Yeah.
Hello, Bob.
And Gilbert Burns said that Charles's BJJ is not considered one of the best, but in MMA, his BJJ is the best. Could you explain that?
Okay, so Gilbert Burns said that Charles Oliveira's BJJ game is not considered to be like world elite by comparison to other BJJ practitioners, but in MMA it is. Yeah. I mean it's just a very different thing. It's you know, like when you see people competing in jiu-jitsu competitions, they're obviously dealing with one very restricted skill set, same as you would if you were boxing or something like that. Now, that requires you to first of all be familiar with the differences with gi and no gi. I mean, of course, he could probably excel in no gi, but then he's going to be competing against people that are purposefully trying to nullify what he's doing. Now, in MMA, there are ways to open those doors. You know, he can level change and attack somebody and climb up them as they're escaping, or not even take them down, climb up them as they're defending his takedown, or he can knock them down with a shot and then jump on them. There also is the benefit of the fence. You know, like his ability to take people down against the fence, to tangle people up against the fence. Same with Khabib. You know, there's wrestling and there's wrestling for MMA. There's jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu for MMA. You know, there's boxing and there's boxing for MMA. It's a different thing. Every time you add a facet to the game, every time you change something about it, it changes the way that things are applied. Like, as soon as you take away kicks, striking changes ranges. It changes the stance. It changes your options when you're stepping into strike. If you take away knees, then you can level change lower. And, you know, there's lots and lots of different things that change. And if you go back to someone like Gunnar Nelson, one of the reasons why he's so successful at taking and controlling people's backs and looking for rear naked chokes is because he opens it up with strikes. You know, very purposeful, mean strikes, mean and meaningful. Like GSP has great wrestling for MMA. Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu game has been refined to mixed martial arts, and he wouldn't be the jiu-jitsu player in MMA that he is had he not developed his striking game just the same. You know, his striking game is always underestimated. That right hand that he knocked Gaethje down with was the beginning of the end. You know, he may not have been able to wrap it up nearly as quickly if he'd not hurt him with that first shot. So there are so many other elements that play into MMA jiu-jitsu, and so many things that just kind of fall by the wayside. You watch professional grappling, and a lot of time they're trying to steal each other's socks. It's like this tumbling around for like, you know, trying to tie each other's shoelaces or something. It's very frustrating to watch. In an MMA situation, even a combat jiu-jitsu situation, one person gets in top position and they'll land shots that will change your options. So yeah, I mean, I think Charles has developed a very, very strong game for MMA. But I also think, you know, if you put him into a no-gi competition, he's going to do well against almost everybody aside from that elite handful in the world.
There's one, the Shadow King.
Yep.
Who would you want Gaethje to fight next?
The Shadow King. Who would I want Gaethje to fight next? You know, I wouldn't mind seeing Gaethje fight Beneil Dariush. I don't think that'd be a bad fight at all. I also wouldn't mind seeing him fight Rafael dos Anjos. You know, the thing is with Gaethje's style, you can match him against anybody, and he's going to bring the best out of them, and they're going to bring the best out of him, because as long as they come to fight, it's going to be a good one. I mean, you know, it's going to get to the stage where, especially now Gaethje's lost 2 title shots, he's probably going to have to win 2 or 3 to get himself back into this position. He might find himself opening the door for someone like a Gregor Gillespie or a Fiziev or a Gamrot, you know, or a Sarukian. You know, like these, you're looking at strong wrestlers there. Gillespie and Sarukian in particular, very, very strong wrestlers. Gamrot, much more of an MMA-based game with great submissions, but great striking as well. You know, you watch his fight against Guram Kutadzeladze, who's another one in this division that is just flying under the radar right now. He's not even in the top 15, but you've got to keep an eye on Guram. He's a lethal individual. I think there are lots of good options for Gaethje, but he's got to be he's got to be smarter about the way he picks his opponents now, because he can't just kind of go through the ringer again because of his fighting style. You know, he does get hit and hurt. He does get bloodied. He can't be doing 5 fights before he gets a title shot. He needs to pick his opponents. Like, if I was him, if I was his management, I wouldn't go any lower than RDA, and RDA's at number 6. Like, everybody above that, I'd say Dariush or RDA. They're my 2 picks. I probably wouldn't want him to fight anybody else if I was his management. And then maybe, you know, a Poirier to try and get a title shot again. But he can't be taking too many more fights because he takes too many shots. Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, I mean, Alexis Tremblay.
Yep, Alexis Tremblay.
How do you think Oliveira would fare at welterweight?
I think that's a good question. I think the question was, how would Oliveira fare at welterweight? I think it's a good question. I also will draw your attention to when he bumped into Kamaru Usman, and it was a little bit frosty. It was a little bit frosty. Like Usman, of course, he had his sunglasses on and he had his fancy shirt on, and it was difficult to read because there wasn't really much of an exchange, but there was definitely a bit of a frostiness to it. I could quite easily see Oliveira moving up, and you know, he might be healthier again moving up a weight class. I know, of course, he was a 145er, but the difference in him, in his health and his performances since he's moved up, he might be able to make that jump again. It's just a shame, you know, we keep coming back to this same thing. It's just a shame that there's not the weight class in between, because, you know, a stop off around 162, even if it's just a catch weight, and just call it catch weight for the time being, there are good fights to be made there. Like, you could put Oliveira against Covington at a catch weight at 162-ish, 162, 163. And that again would be a really good one. We're a bit confined at the moment to the weight classes, and there are a lot of, like, because the most fighters on the roster are either 170 or 155 pounds. You kind of need another option in there somewhere to spread that talent out. Like I said, like, there are guys in the top in the top 30 at welterweight and at lightweight that could be making up a top 15 of a different weight class, and we'd have another belt, and we'd have, you know, more contenders, and, you know, I think it's got to come eventually. Did we get another question there, Jamie? I think we did.
Yeah, there's a donation from Carlos Almonte.
Nice one, Carlos. How does Oliveira do versus Islam's pressure? I think he absorbs it, to be honest. I think that's the best thing about Charles Oliveira's game, is that whatever you bring to him, he just kind of assimilates it and throws it back at you. If you want to come and trade strikes with him, then he'll quite happily hang in there. He'll take your best shots and he'll give you a couple back. If you want to take him down, then of course, you know, he has a whole plethora of options. And that's where this fight becomes even more interesting, really, is it's what does Makhachev choose to do? Does he feel like he wants to stand and trade with the Bronx? Because of course Oliveira's striking is formidable as well. Or does he want to wrestle with him and try and control him without getting submitted? Which, again, it would be very, very difficult to do. Not only because Charles Oliveira has such a depth of a game, but because he's able to go from one to the next to the next. As I was talking about with this a second ago. Like, at this point, when he's on the back here, he's giving himself 3 options. He's got a reverse triangle. He can take his back if he frees Gaethje's left arm, or he can free Gaethje's head and take his right arm. Like, 3 good options. At any point when he's tangled up with Makhachev, you know that he's going to have a few options on the table, and whether Makhachev can keep up with that quick fire submission attack, especially over 5 rounds, that's a question. I know he can wrestle. I know for sure he can wrestle. Watch Makhachev against Arman Tsarukyan. One of the best wrestling MMA matches you'll ever see. But this is a different thing. You know, you go down the card last night, you know, you watch Godinez against Carnelossi, and like V and I were watching it, and as we were watching it, I'm thinking to myself, and I said to V, there's no, like, Carnelossi needs to do something from the bottom. She needs to be aggressive from the bottom, because she's not going to be able to wrestle up and back out of this position. You know, a lot of people coming in against Makhachev, they will try and anti-wrestle, which involves wrestling, which is playing into his game. Oliveira will drop straight into a jiu-jitsu game, and that's a different look for Makhachev, and a very elite look for mixed martial arts.
We did have a donation from Veronica Macedo as well.
Oh, did we really?
Yeah, she asked whose picks were better.
I don't know, to be honest, Jamie. I don't keep a leaderboard because, that's not what it's about. But, yeah, she did pretty good. She had a few good picks. I honestly always forget the picks once we've made them. I think we both picked Journey Newson, but I think I went Godinez. But after that, I don't remember. I felt Oliveira was going to do it. I also thought Rose was going to win. I was leaning towards Tony as well because of... but he did look good in that first round. Anyway, you can't have your decision back. Me, yeah, of course.